All right, we are live. I'm all pumped up. The afternoon's getting started. We are half a day away from the craziest day in planetary history, and so let me do it. Let's get excited, but also bring it down to a calm level because Dr. Sharnael is a calming face. She's a relaxing
Oh, really?
personality. She's got essential oils in the background, which always tell me she's calm and relaxed and everything's fine. Dr. Chanel, welcome to Revolution Network. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm actually going to share this on my Facebook page right now so everybody can see
Beautiful.
in my world as well.
I love it. Everyone's like, why is Dr. Dean on again today?
I,
Yeah, welcome to New Mondays where I go crazy because we have too many people we have to help. So we have to get the word out there. Dr.
well,
Chanel,
yeah,
how
and thanks for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
you're very welcome. So do me a favor because I know you're into all the crunchy stuff like I am. You're into natural health care. You're into helping lots and lots of people. Give me a little background on your journey and your story and how you ended up where you are right now.
Wow, that's okay. So in
While
a
the
nutshell,
president looks over you.
yeah. What's up, dude? Love that guy. So, grew up military, and when I moved down to the lower LA, Louisiana, I the South, there's a lot of religion here, and if you didn't go to church, you didn't have a friend at the time. And so
Wow.
started going to church. I had never been in church before up to that point. I was 13, actually 14 years old. And anyway, so had always had like a gear for God and source, and had some experiences over, and that's a whole different thing. But and just had this connection spiritually. But and then got really in the church situation. Even went to Bible school and seminary, did the whole thing. Really
Oh,
felt
wow.
called to service from a young age. 4 years old, felt called to service. Now in my mind, by 13, I thought that would look like churches or youth pastor or something like that. I just knew speaking to people, helping people. And what's interesting is when I went to college, I went to a Bible school where my undergraduate was a religion based college, and I wanted to major in religious education because I was really interested in studying all the different religions and just the paths. And anyway, the denomination I was part of at the time would not allow women in ministry because that was their deal. I didn't have the right body parts, apparently. So not affiliated in any religion anymore. So
Sorry, that was funny.
yes. So anyway, so they told me, marry a pastor or be a missionary in China because you're allowed to do that over there with different body parts. But like here, I mean, granted, this is years ago. And so I was going to be a veterinarian for I really, really love animals and have a passion for animals. And there's a whole backstory on that with my lab stuff. But tried to do the veterinarian thing for a week, because they tell you, I changed all my classes and try to do the veterinarian thing, but they kept bringing in these animals that got ran over and sick, or people wanted to put down their animals, and I was like, no. And I moved and started working at the zoo, thinking, okay, because you got to work at these places while you're in school to get
Yeah.
hours. And I did the zoo thing thinking I'm going to hold monkeys and it's going to be so cute. And mostly I was just cleaning shit up all the time. And the second day of shit cleaning, I literally went on a lunch break and never came back. So, I mean, and I'm not a quitter, but
It wasn't your calling, was it? It wasn't your calling.
it's so I went back to school and I literally went down and found my next closest thing that I was really passionate about and still am is health. And so I went into wellness and kinesiology, and I finished, I worked in psychiatric rehab, recreational rehab. I worked in cardiac rehab, did a lot of that. But all really still feeling like this calling to ministry in some avenue. And so it was years later in late 90s, I actually had always like volunteered in churches and stuff, and I started teaching all over, doing conferences and just speaking about God and love, and but also big time into neuroscience and kinesiology and energy. So, kind of weaving that into, quantum physics and all of that with everything that I would teach. And eventually, just I felt called to go back to school. I got really sick, to be honest. And I found myself 220 pounds, and I was on 30 different medications.
Oh,
Yeah. And most of them were like, started out, a little bit, but it was like side effects. Then you got to have something else for that and this for that because of the side effects. And really wasn't feeling good. About 6 years of just feeling like total shit every day, low grade fever, traveling every weekend from Thursday to Sunday, being on like 6 planes a week. Back then airplane food was and airport food in general was pretty much Doritos and Rice Krispie bars and soda. So got really, really sick and had kind of went through the whole Western deal because that's kind of what I grew up on, and wasn't getting any answers, and was kind of really just desperate and over it. And someone introduced me to an MD, but he's actually had an ND background, or was really prominent in the whole ND kind of push, and tons of energy equipment and, rifes and beamers and, all this like stuff that I had never heard anything about, of all this Tesla, alien re-engineered stuff here. And I was like, oh my God, and I just was so intrigued. And it was interesting. Like I always follow like source and what God's showing me. And I was literally on a plane, and I had felt like, go back to school and get your doctorate in naturopathic medicine. And I was like late 30s, 3 small kids, full-time ministry, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, really? Like, who's going to go back and get a doctorate at this age? But I was on a plane coming back, and I was like, really, God, you really want me to do this? And I look out the window, and, they have like those cones or like directional things, like go this way, go that way. And it said ND that way. And it was in the direction that I was going. And I was like, dude, okay. So went back to school in the middle of like working and doing all the things, and went to teach myself, to learn how to, just have the information for teaching purposes. But when I finished, I ended up, when I worked with this guy, I had dropped like 70 pounds really quick, got really healthy right away, which was an inspiration to me. And so when I would go back to these places that I had been going for decades, they were like, what happened to you? They didn't even recognize me. And I was like, I did the healthy thing. I'm eating good. I'm doing this. I'm exercising. I'm using supplements. I'm doing all this stuff. And they were like, well, can you teach on this? We have like prayer lists this long in our churches and in our conferences. And, I believe in miracles, and I believe in energy, and I've seen like crazy stuff happen. But when people just go back to their lifestyle after they get that miracle thing, and they just do the normal things that they'd been doing that got them there, that's the definition of insanity, right? So they would get back to what they were doing. And so I started teaching in churches this stuff for quite a while. And then someone happened to be there who was like a doctor, and they were from Michigan, and it was a California meeting. And they were like, will you come and teach at our wellness conference? And I was like, to me, it was a little scary because it wasn't like ministry churchy stuff, but I was like, you know what, go for it. And that started this whole new thing. Now I mostly teach wellness stuff and big conferences all over. And I work with a lot of wellness centers overseas and here. And
nice.
Yep. And so, and now we've moved online mostly, when the last, I guess, 2015, I started really doing a lot more online, just because I do consultations like you do over the phone and what have you. But what I found is most of the people, probably just like you, they come for the same things. It's like sleep, energy, weight loss, stress. And so
100%.
when someone would come, I would be like, I'm going to make a video on that. That way I could just, or, touch as many people possible. And with one, 30-minute conversation, could reach thousands, instead of having to say the same thing over and over again and then record it. So if people text me or whatever and say, hey, what do you do for this? I'm like, hey, here's a video. And I don't have to spin my wheels saying the exact same thing over and over again.
It's so true that you said that because I have a couple courses getting ready to launch, but also I'm probably gonna be doing some group type sessions, like as in like because you're right. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a chiropractor, an MD, or an MD practicing medicine. If you want to get into the natural health space, people really are having the same problems with the same things. It is energy, it's fatigue, it might be some weight gain here and there, hormones, but really they're the central parts of that. And diet, like like you have a book, you have a keto diet. Like I was reading through your book, wonderful, wonderful work. And really, like it comes down to what are you putting in your system? Yes, Keto Reset, good book. It's fantastic. And you know what I like about your books, by the way? What I
What's
like
up?
about your books is you keep it very simple, and they're not like 500 pages long, which is what most. You know what? I know a lot of good doctors. I'm not going to drop their names today because I don't want to upset them, but I would upset them. But they are good people. But they write books that are 300, 400, 500 pages because you know what they like to do? They like to impart their vast knowledge on everybody. Yet when you read it, you don't understand a damn thing that they just said because it's all just a bunch of biochemistry words, which we understand, but not everyone wants to know that. Some people just want to know what to eat, what supplements to take, how to get healthy, what they should feel like, etc. So you do that, which I really love. I'd love to ask a question regarding you're an ND. I have my sister-in-law is actually a naturopathic physician up in North Carolina. I'd love to ask you the differences between ND and certifications because I hear a lot of people get certifications, but then I know there's a full-blown school that comes with being a naturopathic physician. And actually, it's one of the most suppressed degrees out there because medical is scared to death of the naturopaths because the naturopaths literally are just natural health. Could you give us some background on that? Because I'd love to clear that up for everybody.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, you could be a dentist or you can be a hygienist or you can be a vet or a vet tech or a vet assistant. There are certain schools out there that will give you certifications for the basics of whatever, and they involve a certain amount of hours. Or you can be an actual ND, which actually requires you to have an undergraduate and a master's.
Yep.
Versus 28 hours of anything. That's still an investment for certification. And or whatever. But when most of these certifications, they don't require any undergraduate work, any background, anything else like that. And so, just with anything like being an MD, of course, you have to have an undergraduate, and then you go to medical school, and then you have an internship, and you work with other people, you practice on people. Same thing with a full doctorate and an ND is not only do you have your undergraduate and all the way up, but it's like it's a lot of years involved.
Right. Totally.
But then there's a practice internship and or two internships actually that you work with another doctor or another ND and you learn from that. So, and what's interesting is some states and some schools aren't licensed to even do naturopathic and at naturopathic ND as far as the whole doctorate programs. And then some states don't even license. Like here in Louisiana, you can't get a license from Louisiana for an ND.
Yep. Right.
But other states, Montana, Oregon, and what have you, Texas even, you can actually get a license. That's where my license is from. And I didn't get a license necessarily. People are just weird, and sometimes they just say, are you licensed? And I'm like, yeah, I'm licensed because I'm licensed in Texas, but we're not required to have one here. So
You
that's
can also be covered under ministry as well. Are you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
that's why
smart.
We're put under a 501(c) actually because of that. And because sometimes people can't afford necessarily to pay for whatever services. So we wanted to make it available where it's donations. If people, were just because most of the time, indeed, I mean, I don't do insurance. I don't know about you guys, but some places don't do insurance, and there's times where people just don't have the money to do it. I think that's messed up that insurance won't cover basic things like, nutrition and, all this energy stuff. I cannot wait. No, I can't wait. I am so excited for the day when these D-class Tesla things are out, med beds and all these great things. And people always ask me like, well, aren't you afraid that when we get the med beds and we get all this stuff, that this is going to put all you guys out of a job? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm not afraid at all, because people won't give up having like a wellness plan. Because the point is to have a wellness lifestyle, not just a quick fix after you've already effed your life over and you've gotten yourself in that position. You know, we have to have, there's education involved. The word doctor actually means to educate, and education is involved, like you do very well, is teaching people, you know, this is the way, whether it's through social media or books or, you know, classes or whatever, you know, there's so many different avenues, but just investing in your health and learning on your own and doing this. And this is the best time ever to do it, is to invest in that education, because with censorship, who knows if we're going to be around? Like, I mean, you just got off of YouTube or back onto YouTube.
Yeah.
I just got out of jail for Facebook. I've been twice in Facebook jail with groups, couldn't post or comment in groups. I took 30 days off of lives, had a strike on me for just doing lives. And you know what I got taken off for on the live is because I was talking about my own personal experiences with my own patients who are having issues with the scary stuff and what we were doing to help support the immune system. That's what got me booted off for 30 days, and actually telling the truth of what me and 1,114 of my network MDs and NDs across the nation and the world were seeing in these clinics, and what they were forcing people to lie, and that the tests were screwed up and all of this stuff. And that's what got me down. That's what took me down, is telling the truth about this.
Yeah, that's where we're going. So she mentioned that this is my first live back on YouTube since 2 weeks ago. She is my first live interview on YouTube since 2 weeks ago. So good for her. Yeah, I mean, I got 2 week jail for apparently I was bullying and harassing. That's what I do. Even though I was calling out politicians. And then you're saying things that are truthful. It really goes back to, you said something a little bit earlier, and we can expand on, is, you know, if all these med beds and all this technology came out, would we be upset because it would take our jobs away? Well, first of all, you're right, it wouldn't, because people want coaching, people want wellness, people want information, education, so we're not going anywhere. However, this is the heart of a natural healer, whether it's a chiro, whether it's a naturopath like you, or a massage therapist, or anybody in acupuncture, or even MDs that do natural healthcare. If you have a heart for this, you know, I've said this before, if my job went away because people healed overnight and everyone was better, I would find something else. Like, I'm okay. I would figure out, and I would find something that I could do to serve humanity, or whatever it needs. And if that's another job, or that's the humanity, whatever it is, we would find something else. The funny part is, if you gave that question to somebody in the medical system, they're terrified if medicine actually worked, because a lot of people, once they get into the system and they realize that you got to keep pumping out meds, now they're good people, but they realize the fixed percentage, I guess you'd say, in medicine is, I mean, fucking 1%. Like, it actually does something to help somebody. The heart is in helping people. And yes, there's money involved, there's finance involved. We live in an economic system. Obviously, we have to all make money, but the heart is in wanting people. There's nothing better. I'm sure you can attest to this. There is nothing better than when you get a human being that either writes to you or calls you or maybe sends a video now, and their life changed from a health perspective. Would you say that's correct?
It's very, very, very rewarding. I had no idea how much that would be energy to me, is to see, you know, and not just that, when you're giving back health, you're not just giving back like energy and vitality, you're affecting the entire family. You're affecting their purpose to do what they're called to do. Because, you know, a lot of people are just like, oh, you know, I've had all these prophetic words, or I've had these dreams about doing this or that. You know, it doesn't matter what level of dreams you have. If you're not feeling well, and you are sick and achy and stuck in a bed or whatever the situation because of choices that you made that you're just ignorant of, then you're not going to be the sharpest edge person to do your purpose in the best way, the way source actually created you and push you here for. You're here for a reason. And, you know, again, I use scripture for quantum physics purposes. And there's one, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. And for me, what is all? All is all. That means what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, what you're feeling, who you're hanging out with, you know, just being true and authentic, and all of your choices, whether, you know, eat, drink, all of that. And I think there's a certain level or lack of responsibility sometimes where people just go, oh, well, I can do whatever. And they take it for granted. I mean, I could say I did,
Right.
and just got myself there with an undergraduate of wellness, you know, still got myself in a place where I was on all these meds, and then I completely got off, just not all at once. I didn't go cold turkey, but I started feeling better and actually just got off. But and it wasn't really till I think I dropped maybe 40 pounds and
Oh, wow.
didn't have, yeah, I didn't have like I ended up losing like 80 total. But when I just went to 40 and I stopped having migraines every single day of my life and didn't have a low grade fever anymore, then it hit me. What would happen if I stopped drinking soda? What would happen if I actually tried to do something different, like put up the bag of Doritos for a minute, you know? And so that's when I started making the shift to like more green juice and smoothies and, you know, more raw food. And I went keto in 2014
Okay.
because of a health issue. And when you feel better, you move.
Of course.
But you know, but so it's like this catch 22 is when you don't feel great, you don't exercise because you just feel like crap and you have no energy. But when you can detox from all of that, you know, I know you talk a lot about parasites and Dr. Hilda, and she says, as you know, and I'll just tell everybody, is the main thing is pollution and parasites.
That's
So
right.
we can get pollution and parasites. Now, what is pollution? Pollution is not just the fluoride in the water and the food coloring in the foods and the lack of, you know, whatever's in the food, lack of minerals and enzymes. And then we got pesticides and all this stuff, everything that's in the air that they're shooting at us. And, you know, but there is a certain level of responsibility that we can take as consumers, literally, of what we are consuming and what we're cleaning our house with. And, you know, yeah, if you go to the store, there might be bleach that they're using that you have to smell for a minute. But can you be responsible in your own home to use green products? Absolutely. So it's just, and I think there's an energy to that. It's like if you put your intention towards being healthy and doing healthy things and making good choices, I think that really has a lot to say about, you know, your outcome as well.
Yeah, you want to be cause over every as much as you possibly can. And, you know, I've had the same thing. People say, well, what about things like you talk about chemtrails and everything else and all this stuff? And I go, okay, well, first of all, the moment you actually like notice or recognize something, you can now take responsibility for it. You can be cause over. So yeah, they're still in the air some places. They're actually a lot less in my area than it used to be, but they're on the air. But if you now know it's there and you can make little choices in your life to be cleaner, healthier, eat better, etc., you're not as affected by it. That's literally quantum. That's quantum thinking. That's quantum physics. That's everything, right? And you can. But the problem is, if like, and you can't go out and, by the way, eat McDonald's and go, well, I know it's bad for me, but no, it doesn't work that way. It just means that you have to make choices in your life to be better in those areas and to make those things actually occur, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah, and you know what
there's the
really gets me?
mindset as well as the physical aspect of physically doing it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
What
you're
really
good.
got me in the church settings, and nothing against church, but I guess kind of the mentality that I do see in a lot of people, whether church or not, is when someone is sick, they're like, why would God let that happen to them? And they're almost like angry at God or whatever. It's like, dude, cause and effect. I mean, I'm not like mad or upset or mean about it, you know, but I got myself into my stuff. I can own that. And
Yep.
that was just years and years of making wrong choices, and I had to get myself out. The good news is I realized I did it and I could undo it. Sometimes it's too late for some people because
Right.
they're just so far gone. But for the majority, start now. Start now and make the choices now of what you can do and focus on what you can do. And again, with that intention, I think that's just really important, is like what you set your mind to, and not being afraid of the chemtrails, not being afraid.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's going to set another thing where you're just like, oh my God, I can't go to Walmart because they might use bleach, or oh my God, they're burning a candle over there. And that's got, or the one time you don't have a choice to eat anything at a restaurant because you're there with friends and they've cooked, whatever. You don't just be like, oh my God, I can't, and get like weird about it, or go to I've seen people who, they go to like a Thanksgiving thing and they're like crying because they can't, there's nothing for me to eat. And it's just like, okay, you know what? It's not going to have some balance, have some balance.
You actually it's such a good point you say that too, because I'm around a lot of people who are super healthy, right? And I'm super healthy for the most part. I make good decisions. And it's, for example, I remember going to a race. And I grew up around some racing families, like literally like NASCAR, stock car racing. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the race or whatever. And I'm like, you want to go? Oh, I can't be around that. There's chemicals. I'm like, you got to stop letting everything bother you. Like, if you put me in the middle of a NASCAR race and a track where there's gasoline smell and oil smell, it doesn't affect me. One, I've been around it. Two, the better you get, the healthier you get, the more your body should adapt. And guess what? It's a positive thing. It's a happy event. It's enjoyable. You like it. Mind over matter. Mind over matter. So when I walk away, where someone like go, oh my gosh, I feel like I have some chemical toxicity, or going to a movie and they're like, oh, someone was wearing really strong perfume and I feel terrible now. Why don't you feel terrible? I'm like, because I ignored it. That's why. Like, I'm there to watch the damn movie. I'm not there to take in everybody's crap with me. And you really do have to be in control of your body. You have to be in control of your body with your mind. And there is that, not saying that's all of it, but it is a heavy part of it.
Yeah. What you focus on, you make room for.
Right.
So if you freak out over everything and you're just, weird about it and like neurotic,
right,
then guess what? Everything that you think about, everything that you talk about, and everything you especially feel, because the heart is the most biggest generator of the magnetization that comes back to you. Everything that you think, talk about, and feel goes into the biofield. The biofield creates that code, sets the code, also your signature code that goes out, and you not only radiate it out, but you magnetize that back in. So if you're scared, you get more. If you're angry, you get more. If you're pissed off at everyone and grumpy, you collect assholes. Like, it just happens.
that is true.
So same thing. If you're freaking out over NASCAR, it's like, whatever. It's just, what?
If you're surrounded by assholes, you might have a little asshole in you then. I mean, hey, why are you attracting them? What have you, and that goes to the victim mentality too. If you're going to if you, this is not even a political discussion. If you want to get healthy, if you're like, I need to get healthy, blah, number one, step out of victim mentality. If you will never get healthy while playing any kind of victim or poor me, or I don't know if I can do this. Like, it's already over. If you have that mindset, it's literally already over. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the same things.
Yep, because you start collecting more things that will perpetrate you, because you are a victim and you're a quote target, cancel clear. And so when you live in, and same thing with parasites. I love that you do all this work with parasites, because parasite energy is victim energy. You're a victim of the parasite. So you put that out in the biofield, and then guess what? You start having situations where, your house note didn't get, mailed on time, and now you're late, and you got fees, or whatever. The stuff starts to happen. You don't get your food on time.
Right.
all your deals don't work out. People start bullying you or whatever, because you're putting out this victim thing, whether it's, through another situation, or it could be a signature code through your DNA. Maybe grandma had shit happen to them a bunch of times, and that's just in your DNA sending out a code, and you're not even conscious to it, but you can clear it. We can change the DNA. Epigenetics is real.
That is correct. Totally. 100%. Now, there is a topic that I wanted to cover with you because I think you know about it. I'm taking a shot in the dark, but I look behind you and I see shelves of it. So I will admittedly tell everyone I suck at, nor do I have a whole lot of interest in myself being the authority in this area, but I find it very fascinating and I find it intriguing, and that is essential oils. Give me a little like background on them, because I have them in my house. I use a few. My wife uses a few. We don't get heavily involved in it ourselves, not because we don't like it. It's just we have so many other things going on. It's not my area of specialty. But I am fascinated by it. What has your work been with essential oils, and how much has it improved people?
Well, that was one of the main things that I used when I went through my clearing of the stuff that we talked about earlier. And energy is real. Frequency is real. Our bodies are 67 megahertz on a healthy adult day. And so what ways can we get frequency? We can get frequency through food, music, color, people, prayer, anything positive, and also everything negative. You eat dead food, you have actually no frequency to dead food. There's crazy music, or watching a certain movie, or the news, the fake news, anything fear-based, that's all going to drop your frequency down. Now, if your frequency drops, then you're opening yourself up to be more susceptible to dis-ease in the body. And when, as you get lower, the more opportunity for the bigger dis-eases in your body. And so actually you die when you're in the death stages. Your frequency gets to 25%, 25 megahertz. And after you die, you still have a frequency for like 2 weeks. And
that's true. I've heard that.
Yep. And just for a little bit, the brain and everything's gone, but something's still vibrating. And what's interesting is when I have studied all this stuff about neuroscience, quantum, the biofield, and that have you, I was on this path of trying to see like what else has frequency, because I wanted to be, the higher you are in frequency, the more you can stay above the snake line. And dis-ease in the body is a low vibration. And so if we participate in low energy, that it actually has an effect on us from the inside. And so essential oils actually have frequency. It's the blood of the plant. And plants are alive, and they're also freaking smart. They're genius. They know what to do. So I started studying this guy named Clive Baxter, as in your back. Baxter.
That name sounds very familiar.
Oh my God, you would dig this guy so much. You're just a geek like me. I know you would love this guy. So Clive is the one who's really known for the lie detector and all the stuff with lie detecting back in the back time. And what he started doing is he started working with plants, and he would put plants on lie detectors. You guys can Google this. There's tons of stuff out there, all free.
No, it's true. Yep. And, I've seen that before.
Yeah. And they would show what would happen when you would like yell at a plant or whatever. The frequency to the lie detector would just freak out. Not because, and they would like boil shrimp. I liked eating meat, so I'm not, anyway, but they would boil shrimp, and the plants would get sad about them killing shrimp. And I know that's one of the reasons why I love when people are I'm going all vegetarian and vegan, because plants don't feel pain, and yes, they don't. Every living thing experiences pain. Yes, welcome to life. Yes, they do. Yeah, they took one of the experiments was they took this plant, and they had different people, because science people, they do like a bunch of different stuff over and over again. They don't just take one test and call it a day and go, yeah, all right, we got our results. So they have this guy come in, and he takes a match, and he's supposed to just set it up underneath the leaf of this plant who's connected to this lie detector. And of course the plant just goes ballistic. It's not actually burning, it's just holding, like, it's the threat of burning. And right. And then they tried like scissors and different things. This is so crazy, you're gonna freak out. So then they came back, and they're supposed to come back again. And when the guy walked in, this time he was supposed to cut the plant or burn the plant, and went a little further. And of course, not just the plant, but all the other plants that were hooked up totally freaked out and like, oh my God, don't cut me, don't burn me, whatever. And their friends were all like, oh my gosh, look what she's doing, or look what he's doing. Well, then they realized when the person was supposed to come back, they walked into the room, and they were told, just walk in the room and don't cut, don't burn, just walk into the room. They're feet away. Same dude walks in, and they start freaking out. Now, tell me, like, the plants had a memory of the dude.
Yep.
Or the woman. And so they started actually using plants in crime scenes with the FBI. They started working with the FBI. And this is documented. They started getting plants out of crime scenes, and they would put them on, and they would call in the lineup of who they had as suspect, and they would put them in one by one, and the plants could freaking identify the killer or the rapist or what have you. Now, we don't have the laws in place for plants or animals to tell on, their perpetrators or their murderers yet, but this is where technology is. I mean, we may one day be able to put a plant or a cat on the stand and be like, meow, 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 meow. It's like, but this is where we are, right? And so
that's awesome.
Here's the thing. What is an essential oil? An essential oil is the blood. It's the live blood of a plant. And the fact that it has this genius understanding of what life is, but it also is, I can't, for compliance sake, I can't go into everything that a real oil will do. Now, make sure that you're using a real oil, because the FDA is ridiculous, and there's all kinds of companies out there that are not good. And so don't get something at Target or Michael's or gas station oils, because the FDA guidelines are, if you have 3 drops of an essential oil in a bottle, you can label it 100% grade A or not therapeutic oils. And because the marketing part of it, when I called, I was getting all these people coming in really sick. And I'm like, well, what happened? We're using essential oil. So I started taking their oils, and I'm like, we went and brought it to a third-party testing thing. I took 23 different ones, and I said, test this, see what's in it. Well, guess what's in there? Mostly propylene glycol. And I don't want to be gross and all like about the cabal, but some of these tested with urine, semen, and feces in them.
Propylene glycol, by the way, is a form of antifreeze, just so people know.
Yes, it's antifreeze. Thank you. Antifreeze. And you don't want to put that on your body and your skin, which goes right through into your body. And you definitely don't want to breathe it in, like paint fumes or whatever. It's not good for you to diffuse that. But why would companies put urine, feces, and blood or whatever, in a bottle? Because a cabal thing that's a gateway for ritualistic stuff.
Oh, wow.
And there is an opening there on a spiritual. Now, if I didn't know that from before, then me as a medical person wouldn't necessarily understand all that. But I do know that that's the way they induce and induct ritualistic things. And so how smart is it that they would take something trendy and put these in bottles? So like people are uninformed, and they're going out like diffusing this in their house and putting it on their body or whatever. And they're really marking themselves spiritually for terrible things. But even propylene glycol, I mean, what I found is most bottles contain 97 to 98% solvents of some kind, usually propylene glycol, and the rest were real oils. And so, I was getting patients that had their eyebrows coming out, hair coming out in clumps, their stomach aches, they're breaking out. And I'm like, what did you do? So I have a couple companies that I really enjoy. I don't know who you work with, but it matters what the price is to you. Don't buy a $5 oil and expect something any more than you could buy,
that's
apple juice,
That was the best. That was the best thing you could say there is, do not buy the cheap oil. Like, if you want quality in life, you're gonna pay for it. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be exorbitant. Like, it doesn't have to be over the top, but you're gonna pay for quality.
Yeah, if you go to a health food store right now, if I walk in and say, give me 14 ounces of carrot juice, I'm going to be able to stand there and watch them make a bunch, put loads and weights and pounds of carrots into something and actually, make it in front of me. Now I could take that same 14 ounces and buy 100 gallons, milk gallons or whatever, jugs, and put, just a few drops in each and then fill it up with sugar water or fructose or whatever and sell each one of them and make a bunch of money back. I might have paid $7 for my 14 ounces and I could make $100 from selling everything back.
Right.
And this is what they're doing. Even getting stuff on Amazon and what have you, what we found, eBay, Amazon, people are actually taking the real stuff and then they're taking the cap off and they're dicing it out and filling it up. And then they take glue and they actually seal the thing back up and resell it. And they've just made a bunch of money. I mean, it's so sad what people are doing because they're freaking greedy and ridiculous. So I get it straight from the companies. I don't get it from anything. I don't get it from any other stores or do anything because it's all garbage and it's actually hurtful. And what happens is people go get sick from that stuff. And then they're coming to see me and they're scared to use a real oil because it hurt them. And
right.
it makes it bad for the real stuff. The counterfeit just makes people, throw the whole thing out. So, but yeah, like lavender is 118 on a megahertz, peppermint's 98, helichrysum's 157, rose, which it takes pounds and pounds and pounds of rose petals to make a rose oil, is 320 megahertz.
Oh,
that is like ridiculous. That is amazing if you can actually find real oils to
I'm a big fan of the lavender because I get a little bit hyper and lavender chills me out.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool about lavender? If you get hyper and you need to chill out, it knows to chill you out. But some
right.
people are too low, and they put on lavender and it gives them energy because it understands. And you can actually get supplements that have the oils in it, and the absorption capacity is way much more because they're like the captain of the ship, directing where everything needs to go, and it passes the blood barrier and the brain barrier. So literally it can go in and help right at the cellular level if it's a real oil. Now this other stuff that's garbage, that ain't gonna help. It's not gonna do anything. But if you can get a real oil, it's going to go right into your cells and clear. And a matter of fact, one of the main jobs besides clearing is to destroy anything synthetic in your body. It just goes around like Pac-Man and eats up anything that isn't real. So as far as like using it internally, if it's a real oil, you can take it internally and you should take it internally. You can put it in a glass bottle, just a drop or whatever, let's say lemon, and then you can start to detox and it can help you that way. But if you put it in a plastic water bottle, and you don't want to do that because it's going to start to deteriorate the plastic and then you're drinking the plastic. And so if you take a balloon and you just put one drop on, it's going to pop the balloon right away if it's real. And the other way to tell if it's real is if you put it on your hand and it doesn't like instantly go right into your body, then there's a solvent in there or there's a carrier oil in there or it's just crap oil and it'll sit on top and you can just look at it all day and it won't work. So, anyway.
That's very fascinating. You're the second person to give me a really, really good, thorough explanation like that. And it's so funny because I did not love the essential. I shouldn't say I don't love the essential oil. I just didn't know enough about it. And literally, you're the second person. Another wonderful woman who's worked with me before, name's Kelly. She said some similar things, and so that was the second time hearing. I'm like, okay, now I'm fully understanding the entire essential oil story and why. Because let me tell you, man, and there's some people on here right now. Like, I say this in the most positive way. Like the essential oil people, like they're hardcore, right? Like it's a hardcore family, and I've always like, man, they're so into it. Well, what's the deal? And now I'm understanding more of the deal. So I appreciate that. I see you have to gain knowledge in order to understand something.
Yes.
That's fantastic. I love it. Before we head out today, I want to talk a little bit about your website. So it's swiftfire.org, correct?
Yes, Swift.
Now, I'm going to show you the website. I'm going to show everyone the website. I want people to see it, okay? Because it's very important for people to know. There we go. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to the site and what people can do to contact you and things like that? Because your site's great, and I love that you have so much to offer.
So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all the different ways, Facebook for sure. Well, and also if you really would like to make sure you cover all the bases, I would go to all of them and follow or like or subscribe, just because if one goes down, you got another one. But you can get a free newsletter here. I put out a blog and a newsletter a couple times a week. I do videos that I send out with the blog, and I'm a truther and a patriot, so there's a lot there. And then I have tons of classes. I have workshops, classes on sound, conscious language, cutting the cord, the science of miracles, muscle testing, liver cleanse, all that stuff. There's tons of information there, and there's a lot of free information as well through my YouTube. So I'm a geek, and so I like a lot of technical things. So I have like remote bioscan offers and consultations, but I also have like zappers. Do you have zappers?
I have what will make the zapper look like child's play, but I can't talk about it yet because I got to find out what I'm allowed to say on camera and not. And that's not because I'm trying to hold anything back. What I have is literally, it's bigger than Zapper. But
awesome.
I'm already being told that there's rules on it, like that I can only do so much with it. I can do anything with it to myself.
Yeah.
So I'm holding on. I'm actually working behind the scenes to see what I can say, what I can't say. But yes, I understand what zappers are, and I love them.
Yes. So yeah, we have grounding devices. I teach on everything from brushing to grounding devices and the importance of grounding and getting in nature and getting in the ocean, or taking off your socks and just being outside. And of course, essential oils. I have a ton of teachings on that, and explain all the difference with all of that, and can connect you with the proper companies that I know that are true and that actually work. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to Facebook me or inbox me or what have you. I love doing stuff like this because it's awesome and cool that I can do 4 interviews today, which I know you have like 4 too. And we can be in multiple places on video while we're doing another video, and it's recorded, so it's over and over. People are just like getting the content. But one thing I do really miss about not traveling and doing live conferences is before and after being able to like hug people and look them in the face and feel their energy and like connect with people. So if you guys feel led or this resonates with anything, I love whenever someone just sends me a message in Facebook and says, hey, I'm so and so, I saw you, here's my face. I pray for every person that comes through, and just say hi. And like, it's just a little extra step. But for me, I'm a very like one-on-one person, very much too, as much as I am like big people and lots of people. I like that one-on-one too.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, the hardest thing for me the last 9 months or whatever it is now is not any of the chaos that's going on. The hardest thing for me is I'm used to being on an airplane probably
me too.
once to twice a month, going to different cities across the country, working with people, working with my colleagues who own their own practices. And I'll be honest with you, I'm one of the rare ones who loves traveling. Like going to the airport a couple hours before, it doesn't bother me. I actually just love getting on a plane. I love going somewhere new to see things. I love going to see my friends who are, in different states. And I'm hoping that all comes back, because 9 months without an airplane has been really weird for me. But it's part of our game. I love getting out there. And like you said, I go to a different country or a different state, and I see my friends or even see people who, know me, or patients. Like, you're getting hugs. Like, there is no like, hi, how are you? No, like, we all embrace, like, we're all one big happy family. And that's been my biggest, like, I'm just like, I don't like not being on a plane, honestly.
Yeah, I miss it too. There's a certain energy to the whole experience of that, and just meeting people on the plane and at the airports, or certain airports that are like my favorite airports. And yeah, it's, and just being able to see, like you said, my friends or even my family. I mean,
Yeah.
most of my family's in Montana. My daughter's in Washington State. They're
I
up
have a
there
sister in
serving.
California. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that. Like, there's right now, as of right now, California, you better go red.
Yeah. So speaking of that, are we allowed to say anything about that? Like, where do you think we're going?
Well, I'll probably do that on the show tonight, so I won't go into too much because, but this is I will tell you this. This is all I give you until tonight is you better be damn happy that they didn't touch our Second Amendment.
Yep. I saw you got shooting and you love Glocks. I'm a Glock girl too. I got a couple. I got the Trump Glock.
Nice. So the fact that our Second Amendment is not gone is massive. I am in communication with many people behind the scenes who are not just, like run of the mill people watching politics and saying they love Trump, but people who actually know what's going on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I am the type of person. I just block somebody, by the way, who is like Trump's a psyop. Like if you need to plaster my live feeds with a bunch of posts about you need to watch this YouTube because it's a psyop, I'm not going to watch them. Not because I don't study. Trust me, I study that too, but I can't go down that rabbit hole over and over and over again because then I'm getting out of the positive mindset. Now I'm worrying and I'm in fear. Right? The best thing I can do is stay in positivity. And the people that I'm seeing and talking to behind the scenes, they're all behind him. And they're all saying like he is the right person. I mean, I just had an interview last night with a friend of mine, Dr. Tina St. John, and she's like, no, this is all lining up the way it's supposed to line up. And guess what? At the end of the day, I believe it's our civic duty to vote. And so, yes, do I like two choices? No, I do not like two choices. But guess what? At the end of the day, I cannot vote for someone who has done horrible, horrible things to humans, to children, to living things, whatever. I can only vote for the person who's actually saying pro-America things. So that's where I am with it. What happens after that, we will see.
Yeah, I had contacted you about David Rodriguez and Laura Eisenhower being deplatformed.
Yep.
And
Laura's pro-Trump. And let me tell you, if you don't follow Laura Eisenhower, she is one of the most kind souls. I don't know her. I've never met her. We haven't talked. We've messaged back and forth. If Laura Eisenhower is saying vote Trump, she's pretty in tune.
They're both really dear friends, and she has been a huge help for me over the last few years with all the MyLab stuff. And I don't know what I would do without like having someone to like work through some of that. But I had her on last night, and because they were both, David Rodriguez, who is, for those of you who don't know, he's an ex-boxer who did a video back at the beginning of
when it all first started.
Having to do the Hollywood issue, and I interviewed him right away. And I mean, he was literally on a live. He called me that morning and told me what was going on. He's in El Paso, and they're busing in immigrants by the droves for the sake of rioting and just having chaos. And they did this in 2016 because I talked to Carrie Cassidy, and she's like, this isn't anything new. But and I'm actually interviewing her tonight before you show. I always set up my videos before your show because I have to be on your show. But
I appreciate that.
He got off the phone. He did a live, and he's like, telling everyone about these people who are being bussed in, and he's talking to people who work in the hospitals and are seeing like these hospitals just being mass amounts of people who are immigrants. And nothing against immigrants, but do it right. And right. I mean, my grandparents came over from Norway. I get
they're busing in illegal immigrants.
Illegal, thank you. So they are for healthcare on a trade of voting for Biden. That's what they're being brought in for. And also they blocked down the city so no one can like actually tell that this is happening. And it's just so anyway, he's on a live. I don't know that he got on live. He was going to take a couple of days off because he was just kind of having a thing. And
right.
You know, you can get so much information. I mostly talk to whistleblowers like you do, and so does he. And sometimes you get so much information, you're just like, I had to take like a second to process, because it is a little bit some, you know, it's a lot sometimes. And he was taking a day off, and he called to tell me all that, and I'm on the road, and also he calls me back and he's like, I'm gone, is what he said. He's like, I'm gone. I'm like, what do you mean you're gone? He's like, I'm gone. Like, they just deplatformed me. He was in the middle of his live explaining the truth, just like I was. And they took him, and he goes, I got to go. Let me call Laura. And I'm still driving, doing my thing. Next thing you know, he calls back and he's like, oh my God, Laura's gone too. And then Laura's calling me going, guess what? I'm gone. And I was just like, what? So, I mean, yeah, the censorship thing is ridiculous. I've had a bunch of strikes, and like I said, I just got out of one of the things, but they never even had a single strike. Like, they never had a strike. They never had anything taken down, and all of a sudden, poof, they're just gone. Now, I was like, get back on, start over. Who freaking cares? When, you know, like you actually had heard you talk about pivoting, and that's what I was telling him. Like, pivot, dude. Like, you're the champ. Just get another one, get a new email, get a new Facebook. And he was like, oh my gosh, just give me a minute. Like, I just got to let I'm like, dude, you're the champ. Like, you do not let them win. The truth does not ever stop, you know?
That's
and
right.
They are going to be so sorry, so freaking sorry that they ever messed with any of us in any way, shape, or form, because energy doesn't lie, karma doesn't lie, it never takes a day off. And they will get there. All this timeline stuff and all the wars and information wars. There is a day when it comes back. And I don't know when that day is. And I do hope that it's tomorrow with the election. But whatever it is, you know, I'm locked and loaded. I got ammo. We're ready. And, you know, I just got off with Robert Steele, and he believes that it's going to be a landslide.
Yep.
But why are they calling in National Guard to all these places? And they did call National Guard to
because no matter what, if it's a landslide or it's a contested election, I'm telling everyone right now. I had Fred on this morning, and Fred is a money historian, and he's saying, like, please, everyone, don't be part of the chaos, which obviously totally understand. You are one day away from complete chaos in the streets. I'm not saying that because I want it. I'm just telling you that's what is going to happen. So it is what it is. My comments all shut down, so we're going to call this show. And Dr. Sharnael, you are amazing. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. I will keep an eye on you, and let's do this again sometime, okay?
Yeah, let's catch up soon. Take care, and thank you for everything that you're doing. Appreciate you so much.
You're very welcome. You have an amazing day. Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network. Dr. Sharnael, go follow her, and do me a favor. Buy up her products and services. This is how we change everything, is we take care of each other, and we start putting our dollars or our cryptos or our golds and silvers where we deem necessary. And that's what changes the world. So have an amazing day. I'm going to be back on in like 15 more minutes with another really, really crazy special guest that was supposed to happen about a week or so ago. So I'll be back. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.